The Dick Cavett Show. Tonight with special guests, John Lennon and Yoko Ono. Ladies and gentlemen, Dick Cavett.
Listen, I am afraid I have a major disappointment to announce. The tie that I wanted to wear didn't show up for today's show, and I'm going to have to go along with this one. No, the actual disappointment is that the Lennons asked that I not do a monologue. Because it... No, they... See, they find me so funny that if I convulse them backstage, they won't be able to come out here and talk. So I'm not going to do that. But we really have a terrific show tonight, as you know. Everybody's, it's one of the hottest tickets in town. The censor has an oxygen tent standing by for some reason. I don't know why, because, first of all, he thought it was going to be an easy day. He didn't know exactly what show we were doing tonight. And he heard the word Beatle and thought it was a show on ecology and thought it was going to have a lot of fun. And now he knows who it is. And our censor is an older man and an interesting man. But a very fair man, and I have knocked him in the past, just joking. But we have an understanding now that from now on, nothing comes out of the show. And we think that that's a wonderful thing, because you're mature people, and I think have a right, want to. So, anyway, I realize that there's a tremendous request for autographs here tonight. But if you will leave your books, I will get to all of them eventually. And... is this a surprise for me? I can't help noticing that, maybe I shouldn't mention that right now, that in the second row are two people peculiarly attired. I think I won't tamper with that at the moment. There are two people in bags, right? We've had a whole audience in the bag before, but this is interesting. Listen, let us go away for just a moment. Talk to you about something. We'll be right back after this message of interest with you-know-whom. And whom. I guess you all know that, John Lennon, together with the three other fellows named McCartney and Harrison and Starr, were responsible for becoming, I guess, the most written about, most listened to, most imitated musical group of the 60s. And for about 8 years, they were leaders in the musical world, and not only that, but it probably affected what a decade of young people looked like and thought about and dreamed of, and they achieved the absolute pinnacles of success. They were even honored by the Queen, an honor which they eventually returned, I believe. I'm sure it doesn't come as a surprise to anyone that the Beatles are no longer together. In recent months, John Lennon and John has sort of surfaced in the underground press, where he gave a long interview in Rolling Stone magazine, in which he talked with a great deal of candor and some bitterness, I suppose, about the old days. And his wife, Yoko Ono, is maybe one of the most controversial ladies since the Duchess of Windsor. Wally Simpson kept the Duke from becoming the king. Tonight they are, however, quite above ground, and I'm very pleased to welcome them here. Will you welcome, please, John Ono Lennon and Yoko Ono Lennon. How are you?
Nervous, but okay, thank you.
Are you really?
Yes.
Now, is that a little bit?
Yeah.
But it isn't as if we've never met, because we did meet once.
We did meet in a dingy hotel room.
Right. So you're Jack Lemmon.
Yes. And you're Fred Astaire. Or is it Orson Welles?
I'm not Fred Astaire. Yoko, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good, good, okay. Is there anything that you want to know about me to start off with that we could, just to sort of get
what do you do for a living?
To get the... actually, this is my profession.
I know you lived here.
Yeah, I practically do. I hardly ever get out of here. The chair collapses into a bed, and
it must be hard.
It's a bad. Do you have my kind of show
In England.
all over the world? I mean,
They're
you've been
not
everywhere.
quite as good, you know.
They what?
They're not quite as good in England at repartee, you know.
Why is this?
Well, they're more inhibited, that's all.
The
You know, they don't have anybody that would sort of freak out a little.
Yeah.
Unless Jerry Rubin comes on, you know.
Oh, yeah. Rubin came over and disrupted a show done by, I can never think of the guy's name.
David Dost?
David Drost, yes.
It was very exciting.
Yeah, it was a very exciting show, actually.
What actually happened? They came in and broke up the studio?
They broke up the studio, and David ended up in the audience to show that he wasn't with the young people, you know. Which shows where he is at, really.
Out
Nothing
there.
personal, David, wherever you are, red light.
You
Right.
You know, I had a terrible feeling that my hair was going to be longer than yours. It's a funny thing, because I met you the other day. The recent pictures I'd seen of both of you, yours is extremely long, Yoko, and yours, John, was very long. And of course, people were going around saying, I can't tell which one is which, and all. You know,
Yes.
that sort of
Well,
witticism.
last year I cut mine. We both cut it right off down to about 1/4 of an inch, 69 or 70, I can't remember, because I just suddenly realised it wasn't functional, you know, to have it. When I had it down here, you just have to keep washing it and combing it. You know?
Yeah.
So then I chopped it all off, and then it just grew a bit, and then I just let it grow to this length.
What's your favorite length, Yoko? Are you at it right now?
Well, it depends, you know. We like change, and we just don't want to stick to one.
Who wants the
you know,
same old
and-
haircut every day, you know?
No.
Oh, that's
Have
my,
a different one every few months. You know?
that's my feeling. Did you save the hair by any chance?
One time we cut it, we gave it to some Michael Malik, who was running a sort of black house in London, which wasn't exactly a Black Panther thing, but I think it was something to do with it. And they were just having a community centre in London, and we sort of symbolically gave it them. They were going to auction it off at wherever you auction hair off, you know.
Yeah.
That's quite nice.
That big place in London, I can't remember the name.
Sotheby's?
Yeah, that's it. It never happened though, but it was a symbolic gesture, really.
So you don't.
Solidarity. Dim.
And that hair today then is missing.
Gone tomorrow. Silly, isn't it? Oh, you're going to do this all the
We spent
time.
this much time there.
It's gone already.
Yoko, do you have fun when you're over here in this country?
Oh, yes, very much. Because after all, this is my second hometown.
Yeah.
She lived here for 10 years. Didn't
People are surprised. They often say she speaks very good English. But you've been here a lot.
But some people ask me, well, can you speak Japanese? And then I get very offended, you know, because
Can you
I am
speak Japanese? Yeah.
You
Now
know.
you've offended her, haven't you?
Get me out of this, John.
Well, funny thing happened on the way in
Way
tonight.
to-
It never has to me.
No, me.
Not once in my life.
Nothing happened.
You want to tell them
Whatsoever.
about that story, you know, whenever they talk to us and then they're not listening and then you start about that elephant.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that.
I suppose you get it too. When
Private
people
joke
meet
between
you,
us,
Sure.
you know, like in a restaurant or anywhere, when you're trying to order something, you find that they're so struck by, oh, is it really you, that they don't really hear your order, you know. So when I'm talking to them, I'm saying, I'd like a steak, medium, and 2 elephants came and a policeman bit my head off, and a cup of tea, please. And they're saying, yes, thank you.
It really is like that.
Because they're not listening, you know. Probably half of them aren't listening now, which is a good thing, I suppose.
That's a terrible feeling,
Yeah.
to think that they're never listening at all.
Well, it's surreal, you know. I don't mind that.
Have you ever had elephant actually brought to you by someone who was listening?
And bit the policeman's head off quite often, yes. It's an old Anglo custom. You know.
I'll believe anything. You like being over here, I gather. I have had some English guests on. What do you think of yourself as English? First of all, let's establish that.
Well, sometimes, I mean, if you're talking about being over here or being over there, then
Over
I
here,
think,
yeah.
well, I'm from over there, you know.
Yeah.
But I normally think in terms of, I suppose I think in cliques and things like other people, like musicians and or long hairs and or under 30, over 30, etc., etc. And being married to a Hawaiian, it makes you sort of more international, you know? Sorry about that.
So we sort of
Must be a
kid
mistake
each
in my
other,
notes.
you
Well,
know?
people think of us as, especially in England, not so much here, we get a bit more respect in America as artists, but back home, I think it's the case for all artists, back home it's a bit like, I'm the man that won the pools and lucky guy who had a spot of luck and married a Hawaiian actress, you know, and which isn't true, really. Do you get it?
Kid each other. Because I'm from Japan and he's from England, so somehow we found out that we're sort of passionately patriotic sometimes, you know, and we get, well, no, I mean, that's Japanese made, or no, I mean, you know, English are the first ones to do this.
We invented
and
radar
all that,
and
you know.
penicillin, you know. But it's a fan turning into a hard hat, you see, when we start discussing, you know, well, we're both islands, and we're both little, and we both did this, and we both did that. And we find ourselves turning quite fascist discussing it.
You do.
Made in Hong Kong and all that.
Yeah. And you do jokes with each other, and do you kid her about...
Always laughing, Dick.
Are you? Giggling and laughing?
After
No.
this...
I mean, would you stoop to, you know, Pearl Harbor jokes and that
Oh,
kind of
yeah,
thing?
I do all that. I saw speak English, huh? Oh, so English
Do
pig.
a kabuki thing.
Oh yeah, there's a
You know
kabuki
about
theatre in
kabuki
Japan,
dance?
and they have
I
a
know.
massive stage, and on stage they have the musicians with them, and
You
all
see
the
it
men
only
play the
once,
parts,
though,
you see,
yes.
and all the men play the women's part. They go, so that's kabuki, you see. I learned it after only one sitting.
It's very good.
Even
You-
Japanese,
do you know what it
yeah,
is?
they start to laugh when he does that, because it really is Japanese when he does that. I mean, kabuki, you know.
Only our hip
Very
nips will
kabuki.
notice how funny it is, actually.
There are two of them in Utah breaking up right now.
And I've seen one on TV with yellow glasses, and he calls himself the hip nip, and he pretended to be Italian in the war, I remember.
Is
funny,
is
though.
Mr. Lennon putting me on?
I don't know.
糸さんに面会したのですか?
Ah!
Was sind die drei besten Dinge von der ganzen Welt?
Yo hablo poquito español.
¿Qué pasa?
Whose move is it? We have a brief message of interest from people of various creeds and colors, and we will return. There we are.
May I?
Now that we're through making fun of each other's nationalities and other people's, you were saying?
Yes, I just discovered, you know, so John was saying that he discovered that I chain smoke through this article that he was reading about me, you know. Somebody said I chain smoke.
I had noticed
Ah,
before.
is that what it is now? And since then, you know, he never gets off that one. But I just noticed if I'm lighting another
You
one.
mean the video that you chain smoke? Oh, smoking kills, you see.
It is. It does. You know, you're setting a bad example
Didn't
for
work,
adults
Jano.
all over the world.
Didn't work, Arthur.
Does
talking
that
to
ever
Jano.
happen to you, that you find out something about the other from something you read rather than
Oh,
actually?
sure. I mean, I began to suspect she chain smoked because every time I kiss her, I burnt my chin. But, and then I read it in an article.
That's a wonderful delivery you've got. That's good.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
back on the boards.
Yeah. But what was I going to say just before that? Do you have any
Something about-
idea? We're talking about articles written about you and all that.
Oh, yes.
Well, I know where I was.
Yes.
I know where I was.
What's that?
Earlier, I said you seem to like it here because I've had English guests on, British
Yeah,
guests,
that's
who said they come here because they're stifled over there and they can't work and they like the exhilaration here. Then I've had American writers
Yeah.
who have left America because they feel so menaced and threatened that they like the calm of London.
Yeah, well, somebody like Richard Chamberlain went over there and did very well, you know, going from the soap opera to Hamlet. And vice versa, I suppose people have come over here and broadened the scope. I think it's just a matter of you have a different kind of feeling when you're abroad, you know, maybe you can loosen up. But in Britain, we only have 2 channels of TV. And if you watch the old British movies on TV now here, it's the same old men always on TV in Britain still, you know. They have a sort of school of actors. There's about 3 new people got into the profession since I was 10. So it's a bit limiting, you know.
Oh, you do see all the same old faces.
But the best thing about British TV is the live stuff, you know, like plays and things like that. But it just goes off at 12, you know. So if you have a choice in England of either going out to dinner or watching TV, you can't do both. Like, but with America, it's great. You just sort of wake up and it's on, and you get back after going out for an evening and it's still on.
We
It's
just
beautiful.
It's nice if you're sick.
I love
you know,
it.
You know when you're sick and you're up
I'm
all
always
night.
sick. That's why I like it so much. According to something I was
But
reading.
British TV is all right, though, in a way. You know, they have all sorts of nice...
Well, it's not bad, my dear.
I'm getting used to British TV more than Japanese TV, of course, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I feel British sometimes, you know, that way.
Did your accent change slightly when you were in England?
I don't know.
Yeah.
People tell me that I have Liverpool accent now. And all
She used to have an American accent, being educated here at those funny schools.
Sarah Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a funny place, isn't it?
I was there.
Do you still have friends from Sarah Lawrence that you're in touch with?
Ah, well, there was one
Not-
turned
oh,
out
yes,
to be a
yes.
snide. Tell him about that.
A snide?
No, well,
Yes.
you see, a classmate of mine, sort of about 2 years ago, that was when we weren't really that famous that we were together, but
Yeah.
we
It
were
was the
just
first
getting-
article in America on us both
Yes,
since we got together.
it was very important for me,
Yeah, look.
actually, because I was introduced to America through that article, and she was a classmate of mine, so I thought, oh, that's nice. So she came, and I thought, well, you know, since we are friends, so I should cook for her and all that, and I made a nice lunch for her. And then she wrote that, what was it, that...
Oh, she said Yoko looked fat like an old witch cooking. She was 9 months pregnant and just had a miscarriage, and that
I resembled
Ernest Borgnine, you know. Well, you can see that she doesn't. And that was
I
this
mean,
old pal
I
that had
liked him and
sneaked
all
in
that,
to
but,
see
you
us.
know.
On the
Did you like Ernest
under
Borgnine?
no, I
pretext.
like-
I just
I
want to
like
say
Ernest
Betty
Borgnine.
Rollins' legs.
Was it Betty Rollin who wrote
Yeah.
the article? Oh.
Good old Betty, old pal of Yoko's. Betty
And
Rollins'
then
legs.
she said something about...
Betty Rollins' legs. Okay, I think we can leave that one out. It's silly to be so bitter, isn't it?
Oh, yes, there's something about her legs. I never noticed anything wrong with her legs when I was married to her.
Did you? You weren't looking, obviously. She kept them long skirts on all the time.
I was never. In
Weren't
fact,
you?
as a matter of fact, no, I wasn't. But
put
she
it
wrote an
on.
article recently in which she said I was delicious.
Well, maybe she's had a pill or something.
Right. But do you have? You don't go to reunions at Sarah Lawrence. You were only there about a year, then, I gather.
3 years, actually. Mhm.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to graduate, you know. I was one of those early dropouts. I just felt it was so ridiculous to go another year. I just couldn't stand it. And in those days, people said, well, it's so silly to not graduate, you know, that bit.
Because you'll never get a job.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I was a bit afraid of that, of course.
You never
But-
make it. That's what they told me, too.
That if you didn't finish school.
One maths master wrote, you're on the road to failure if he carries on this way.
Do you ever see your old schoolmates?
No, I've seen a few old school friends, not teachers. No.
Yeah.
Most of them dislike me, except for one or two, you know. So I am always glad to remind them
Was there ever a
of
teacher
their
that?
own incredible awareness they had.
Was there ever a teacher who did inspire you?
Yes,
or
there was always one teacher in each school that would usually be an art teacher or an English language or literature kind of thing. If it was anything to do with writing or art, I was okay at it. Anything to do with science or maths, I just couldn't get it in, you know.
Yeah.
So, but most subjects were science and maths because supposedly they don't want artists, you know. Even at art school, they tried to turn me into a teacher. They tried to discourage you from painting, and you know, why not be a teacher? Because then you can paint on Sunday. I decided against it.
You know, your drawings look a little like James Thurber's.
Well,
not a
I
lot,
used
but-
to love his stuff when I was a kid.
Oh, did
There
you?
was
Stuff
two people.
look like
yeah.
a bit like yours, you know, I think.
Well, he's older than me, so he came
Oh,
first, so I look like him.
Mm-hmm.
I used to
Right,
read
nice
those stuff
point.
when I was a kid. Three people I was very keen on: Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland, Thurber, and an English drawer, or whatever you call him, called Ronald Searle.
Ronald Searle. Oh, we
Yeah.
get him over here.
Yeah, so when I was about 11, I was turned on to those three. When I was, well, I think I was about 15 when I started Thurberizing the drawings. You know.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Ah, yes. That was my imitation of Nigel Bruce, one of your actors.
I saw.
Oh, really, Holmes? Remember he played Watson in the Sherlock Holmes movies?
Yes.
Oh, really, Holmes? It's dynamite, usually.
Ella Fitzgerald, dear Watson.
You thought it was Ella Fitzgerald?
No, Ella Fitzgerald, dear Watson. That's a pun on
Oh,
elementary.
Elementary, my dear Watson. That's
I get
right.
it, yeah.
Ella Fitzgerald. That's known as wordplay.
Yes, I'm
Oh, I
always
can
playing
play
with
that.
myself.
Sure.
Betty Rollins' legs. our local station.
We will be rolling further after this message from our local station. We're trying to figure out what it is I forgot that I wanted to ask you earlier.
I just want to thank you for playing Paul's tunes to me. It's very nice of you. Wonderful, thank you. I always get it. I sat in a restaurant in Spain, and the violinist insisted on playing Yesterday right in my ear. And then he asked me to sign the violin, and I didn't know what to say. I was saying, well, actually, okay, and I signed it, and Yoko signed it, and one day he's going to find out that Paul wrote it.
That's better than if they'd played Wedding Bells Are Breaking Up, That Old Gang of Mine.
I guess so. I guess so.
Maybe I should have saved that for later. Well, let's talk about that for a second, because you know, Yoko, you've even been called the Dragon Lady, who
yes,
the lady who brought the Beatles apart and took them all apart.
Well,
I have trouble with English.
Can we please give her the credit for all the nice music that George made and Ringo made and Paul made and I've made since they broke up? If she did it.
That's true. And now,
it turned out all right, didn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway,
but you were aware of that. I mean, that the press always saw you as the wedge that was driven in. And I can drive a wedge in 3 places or whatever, how many spaces there are between 4 people. But that was the. There are millions of girls who would love to have met, let alone married, one of the 4. Any one of the 4, probably, but certainly a lot of them.
Well, I resent to think of him as one of the 4,
Yeah.
I mean, or any one of the 4, etc. Because I just met him as another artist and all that, and I didn't, particularly realize that part of it, really.
You were a Beatles fan before, or would you say you were a Lennon fan before?
Neither.
Neither. Didn't care for either of them?
She didn't really know about us.
No,
the only
I
name
didn't
she knew
know.
was Ringo, because it means apple in Japanese. And so. Ringo means apple.
Ringo means apple.
Yeah.
Did you know that when you named your company Apple?
No.
Oh. It was just one of those happy accidents.
Just one of those happy apples, yes.
Happy applesauce.
No.
Right numbered
Happy
syllables.
Christmas.
Ringo, if you spell it sideways, spells groin.
Yes. Star backwards is rats.
I know, and there are a lot of... Do you do those things too? I find that I'm
when I
always...
go along the road in the car, I'm always doing the signpost backwards. Anyway, she didn't split the Beatles, because how could one girl split the Beatles, or one woman, The Beatles were drifting apart on their own,
Can you remember when you realized that it was inevitable that you would split up?
No.
First,
no. It's
was
like
there
saying,
anyone-
did you remember falling in love? Not quite,
Yeah.
Just sort of happens.
How long was it fun?
Yeah, well, everything's fun off and on, So I suppose it could have gone on being fun off and on, or it could have gone worse, I don't know. It's just that when you grow up, we don't want to be the crazy gang, which they might know over here, which is British, or the Marx Brothers, which is sort of being dragged on stage playing She Loves You when we've got, asthma and tuberculosis, and when we're 50, Here they are again, yesterday, all my troubles. So a long time ago I said that I didn't want to be singing She Loves You when I'm 30. I said that when I was about 25 or something, which in a roundabout way meant that I wouldn't be doing whatever I was doing then, at 30. Well, I was 30 last October, and that's about when my life changed, really.
And especially for John, I can say that he's at least sort of outgrown, whatever they were in, Because I think it's very difficult for 4 artists who are so brilliant and talented to be together and do everything together, I mean, just impossible almost. So whatever they were doing was almost miraculous, that they were together at all.
With all the pressures and everything
Yes,
that
yes,
they had.
and,
I guess the Hard Day's Night, everybody thought that was what life really was like for you, and that a man with a handheld camera had managed to capture the essence of Beatle life, and that it was always just flitting about in a lovely, carefree, joyful way.
Well,
was it ever like that?
It wasn't that carefree ever. It was a lot more pressure. That was a sort of comic strip version of what actually was going on, Pressure was far heavier than that. And that was written after the author spending about 3 days with us when we played in London, and then in Dublin, and then back in London again. He wrote the whole of the film based on our characters, clod-hopping Ringo, sharp John, whimsical Paul, and stern George. You know, all those, the Beatle character myths were formed from 3 days watching us, you know, which was a lot of junk, really.
Would you like me to get that for you?
No, thank you.
Oh.
I don't really
She's
read
a female lib, you see.
That's why I hesitated, because I've had my fingers snapped off by ladies on the show that I tried to light.
But you do like men's cigarettes as well sometimes, if you feel like it. If you're feeling gay, you know.
Wow. I do.
Well, one does like any sexy cigarettes, Betty Rowling, don't we?
I mean,
John, I interrupted you, though, and
Did you?
I'm sorry, or,
Yes.
you were
what
saying...
I meant was, as a woman, you know, it's such a nuisance to have to wait for somebody, you know, that bit too.
And do you make a point of opening the door for yourself?
No, I don't make a point of it. You know, when I'm tired, it's always very nice if somebody opens. But I don't, you know, at the same time, I don't make a point about just waiting. You know, that is silly too, I think. You know.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I disrupted something there, or I interrupted it.
Well, I
really.
don't
We were
remember.
talking about the fact that the impression in the Beatles movie that was the
Oh, well, that was
sort
it,
of a
really.
comic
but,
strip version of what life's really like.
Well, that was all I had to say, really. It was
Yeah.
a comic strip version, and it sort of stuck with us. And now for a small message from We'll Be Back. Something like that.
He's right about that. We have a station break, and we'll be back. Oh, we're back again. Yoko,
Yes.
you work in film.
Yes. I
Yeah, and John has referred to you
well,
somewhere.
You both do, actually. But, you know,
Both of you.
yes.
But John said somewhere that you were one of the best unknown artists in the
The
world.
most famous unknown artist in the world, she is, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Because she's been in the so-called avant-garde world of New York for almost 15 years, producing...
How many?
15 years, about.
Well,
it's a long... 10.
Sounds like I'm
Something like that. And she was quite an established artist before she met me. And then once she met me, then she became Mrs. Lennon. And, that's when they started calling her a Japanese actress, you know, when in fact she never appeared in any movie up till then. And really, but mainly. And she'd been directing movies and having gallery shows and theatre shows and things like that. And then it got swamped with Mrs. Lennon. But now it's just about turning around. People are realizing that she's an artist in her own right. But she's still the most famous unknown artist.
And
Do you want to comment
Yes,
on
that
that?
was brought up. That was
Sorry.
brought up because of this film that you're going to see.
Yeah, we have a piece of a film that you did. It's not... Maybe the most famous film you did was one called Bottoms.
I think so.
Bottoms, which was in fact a film of bottoms.
It was called Number 4, actually.
Yeah.
364 bottoms, 5 bottoms, that was it.
364 or 365?
365 bottoms, one for each day
One
of
for
the
each
year.
day of the year, yeah.
But it actually didn't contain 365 because I thought, well, nobody's going to really... It's a conceptual number, you know,
Not
and they
gonna
couldn't
count.
possibly count it, so...
You mean that in some cases the bottoms were the same one
No,
posing
I
as
wouldn't
other
There might be
I
about
wouldn't
100 in it. You see, the interesting thing about the film is all the bottoms were the intellectual and artist people in London. And the soundtrack of the film is all of them trying to explain and be very uncomfortable about why they're taking the trousers off. Some guy saying, well, I normally do Shakespeare, you know. And then you see his bottom just, and it's not cut to each bottom, but the whole screen is just 2 bottoms to each side of the buttocks walking like that.
Yeah.
And then all these comments are saying, well, you know, like I normally do Shakespeare, and what's it all about, and the real philosophy about taking your trousers off, and they're all jabbering on like that.
They were intellectuals, so they just had to sort of rationalize it somehow, you know, so they'd bring out Gurdjieff and Sartre and everybody out, you know, before they just take off their pants. And it was really funny. But the point was that I was asking to look for intellectual bottoms, you know. They had
Intellectual
to be,
bottoms,
yes,
yeah.
and so they would say, well, is this intelligent enough or whatever, you know. And when you look at it on the screen, it's just all the same, and that was the point, you know.
There's a show here called New Faces. What would you call... Well, never mind. Can we take a look at the piece of film you have?
Are you going to explain about it?
Tell us what
Let
we
me
should
quickly
look
say
for.
that this is a female lead film in sort of a quiet sort of way, and it's like a diary. You know, it's about a woman who's naked and who's lying down, and the fly sort of crawling over her body, and later gradually becomes 4 and 5 flies all crawling over her body, and the message is like, you know, there's lots of things in it and all sorts of level of understanding, I'm sure, but it has something to do with, you know, a life of a woman who is more like taking it rather than, you know, doing it positively. The fly is crawling over you and just taking it, you know.
Passive woman. Let's take a look at that. Oh, we'll take a look at that in exactly 6 seconds because the film has a certain amount of
exactly 6 fingers
lead
time.
around it. About now.
Take me away, 'cause I'm going. Very nice. Look at it on the face.
That was. There's more to the movie, of course. That was
It
only.
goes from head right through
Now,
up to the
never
toe and back
mind.
again. From head to toe.
Oh yeah.
And you notice the women always giggle. It was shown at the Cannes Film Festival, and he got an ovation, believe it or not. And but the women always giggle like mad, especially as it's getting higher.
Yeah.
Had it just before it was getting very interesting, you know, I mean, sort of.
It was just getting
Well-
interesting, but of course we're on TV.
Yes, this is television
I mean,
after all.
this isn't Channel 13, is it?
I didn't even know you could.
More! Steady rolling. Aye, aye. I don't wish to know
When the censor found out the movie was called The Fly, you can't imagine what he thought.
Imagine.
Maybe you can. The
a
Fly.
good
You must
joke
have
on
done
the
an
album,
enormous number of retakes to get The Fly to do.
We had an enormous number of flies. In fact, the credits are almost as long as the film because there's so many people catching flies from the back of dirty New York restaurants and things like that. And then we were catching them in the room.
Yeah.
The girl was very good, and her
Who
name
was
was
that?
Virginia Lust.
Virginia Lust,
Yeah.
L-U-S-T.
Yeah, L-U-S-T. Get out of that.
Did the movie lead to other roles for her or The
Well,
Fly?
I should hope so. Well, I think
Well,
it will.
after 2 years of making movies, we made about, say, 12 together and apart. And we finally got deals here with people called Genesis in America and somebody else in Britain. And they'll be going around all the different colleges. So before our films haven't really been seen, so nobody really knows that we're filmmakers. We've had them in Cannes Festival. They did all right in there. We had them in the Edinburgh Festival. There's a chance they're going in the New York Festival. They're definitely going in the San Francisco Festival. And they should be later this year starting to, about 5 of them probably will tour America. So then...
So you're serious about film?
Oh, sure. Film is, well, it's like recording only with your eyes, you know. You just make it visually and it's just as interesting. And to combine the both is really interesting.
How would you feel about me if I were to ask if Bottoms was shown at the Cannes Festival?
Bottoms wasn't, no.
That was a bad joke.
That was a joke.
Oh, yeah. Well, that answers my question.
Yes, we'll be back after this.
No, wait a minute. Will you explain the people in the bags before the evening is out?
Ah, yes.
Not now,
yeah.
but before the evening is over.
Are you going to tell a story of how you started the bag event?
Yes, well, that was when some composer was going to visit me from Europe, and I was sort of, you know, I didn't really want to meet because I'm basically a very shy person. And then I thought, well, you know, people don't believe me when I say I'm very shy, but we're both actually. And then I thought, no, I don't want to meet him, but then there wasn't anything I can do. So finally, he was coming, and it was about an hour before he was coming, and I couldn't do anything about it. So I just, you know, out of desperation, made a bag, and I was in the bag when he came to visit me.
An all-over bag or just over your head?
All over.
All over.
Yes.
That's
and
a
so he was
terrific
saying, well,
idea.
where's Miss Ono and all that? And, oh, yes, well, it's you, is it? And all that. And he was pretty calm about it because he's heard of my work and all that. So he thought, oh, is this your, you know, musical piece or something? And, I mean, it was very comfortable, you know, because then I didn't have to be seen, you know. I could see him, but I couldn't.
And there's no
That's a
prejudice.
great
If people are in bags, you know, if a black man goes for a job in a bag, if everybody had to go in a bag for a job, there'd be no prejudice, you see. You'd have to judge people on the quality within, you know, and we call it total communication. We were asked to make a film for Austrian TV, which we did, called Rape, which wasn't a rape, but it was called Rape. It was rape by camera, in fact. And when we went to Austria to show it, we did a press conference there in a bag, and it was great because all the press came in, you know, and they never saw us. We were just both in a bag, and they interviewed the bag, and they're saying, "Oh, is it really you? And what are you wearing? And will you sing a song?" And that. And why us? And they said, "What is this?" I said, "It's total communication." They said, "But why did you pick on us? We've never seen a Beatle." And it was beautiful. And they're saying, "Do you realize the Habsburgs lived here?" And we're saying, "Yeah, so." And it was a great press conference, and they all had a very serious conversation with the bag. And next day, the headlines in Austria were, you know, the show of bag, and all the important press men all just talking to it. So those are in the audience. We have two friends which are
who are in fact in bags.
See, we thought of a thing that we must take a break now. Yes.
That's right. We will take a break, and we will get to them after that. stay with us. Would everyone wearing a bag please step up here so we could see what, the two people in the second row? I've never had guests...
Let it down, mate. You can see your legs there. What's going on?
Can I help you adjust your... There we are.
Now, see, if they were going for
Yes.
a job, you see, and you say, well, what are your qualifications?
How do you do?
And what colour are you? And are you Christian or are you Hebrew? And yeah, you got the job.
Let us know when you're through voting. I have no idea what sex either of you is, and I assume you do.
Well, you see, you could go in the bag and make love to one of them and find out.
I would, but this is a very short segment.
Oh, I see, okay. Do you want to go off again, then?
If we had more time.
Yes, I know.
Oh, they're leaving.
Scene one, you've seen them all.
Wait, one thing. You will speak to me. It's funny because I don't know where to look. I don't know if your nose or your eyes are here.
Come back here.
Are you a lady?
Yes, I am.
Would you hold where you are for just a moment? Just stay where you are. I'm offering you a glass of water.
I don't drink water.
You don't drink water?
We did an interview.
Have I made a social faux pas?
No, I think it's all right, because you don't know whether she's powering or phoning in there, do you? So it's all right. You see, we did a talk show in England, and every time the man wanted to talk about Beatles, the interviewer, because I'm fed up talking about them, I asked him to go in a bag, and he did it. And the interviewer, the Dick Cavett in England, he was in the bag all the time. So every time the camera panned to him, the audience broke up, so he could never get the questions out. It's a very good show. Yeah. Hello.
Thank you for being here.
All right. Charming.
Can you find your way down now? Okay.
Very nice.
You look very nice.
Yes, you're looking a little pale, but very nice.
They could be changing film, of course.
They could be doing anything in there, for all we know.
That's what it's
We
about.
will be right back after this message. For similar reasons that I explained either before or after this, I've forgotten. We can't have you sing live for us, but your voice is so unique that I wanted to get it into the show. And could you tell us how and what we're about to hear?
Oh, well, maybe this voice is something else again, but this is going to be a single, my first single independently. I've had singles before with John, but it was always the B-side, and I think it's...
You were always the B-side?
No, she's Woman's Lib. She's got her own first single. I
Going
think it's
out
a
on your
beautiful
own,
song, and it's called
It's out
Mrs.
now.
Lennon. It'll be out now, yeah.
Yeah. It's called Mrs. Lennon.
It's called Mrs. Lennon, yes.
All right.
It's a very nice song.
Let's give it a whirl, as they used to say.
From her new album, Fly, out now. Ding.
How do you know how to make film, John? Have you studied it at all?
Well, no, Yoko was quite adept in filmmaking, and she'd made quite a few films before I met her. I used to make 8mm films at home, you know, and superimpose and do tricks with it, and just play arbitrary records with it. But when I met Yoko, she said, well, why don't you do it seriously, you know? So she sort of helped me develop in that area, and I find it's very similar to recording, you know, just visual, and it's beautiful to work with.
You understand the camera and all how it works, and
Yes.
do you use an American
He's
camera or?
getting so good now. I find it a bit, you know, he's too good for my liking these days almost. You know. And it's
Well,
really-
she taught me filmmaking. I taught her sort of rock and roll, you know, and so I'm getting worried with these singles coming out, and she's getting worried with my film, so it's pretty good.
What kind of camera do you use when you?
both
Ariflex,
and
Ariflex, 16
All
mil.
sorts, you know,
normally,
we
yeah.
use
Film
about
fans like
three,
to know that.
three
We know the
cameras
picture best, you know.
at the same time.
Sorry.
Sorry.
We use about 3 cameras at the same time, you know, because not to get all the angles and cover it and everything.
I mean, we know what a good picture is, so if you know what a nice picture is, then that's the start, you know.
Say,
Say,
is it true that rumor that they used to when the four of you were together, that
Who?
some of you and the other
Oh, yeah.
the other fellows, that those concerts many times the din was so uproarious and all, nobody could hear anything anyway, that they actually played a tape and that you didn't really play? That was a rumor that went around.
We didn't ever play those. Sometimes when your voice was so bad through losing your voice that you would be wouldn't be singing at all, but nobody would notice because there would be so much noise going on. You could never hear what we were doing. You know, it just would become a sort of happening, like Shea Stadium was a happening. You couldn't hear any music at all, and that got boring. You know,
Yeah.
that's why we stopped really. I reckon now if I went out, not as the Beatles, but just Yoko and I went out with the group, then people wouldn't be screaming, you know, and because our records are better now, I think, and more mature, and I think the audience will be more mature too. That's what I'm hoping. I don't want any of that jazz, you know.
You've said somewhere you said you'd like to be forgotten, but now you say you'd like to go out and perform again, so you can't really have
well,
both.
I can still be forgotten when I'm dead. I don't really care what happens when I'm dead, if that's what you mean.
No, I thought you meant now. I thought you meant I just like it all to go
no.
away and all the publicity you've had.
No,
You'd
I
like
mean,
to...
well, you see, with people like me and yourself, you know, if you're in a certain mood and reporters sort of asking questions which are angled to get an answer that they need to sell their paper, and you're in a certain mood, you'll say certain things to them, and then people bring it back 5 years later, so you said this, did you? But you've forgotten all about it. You've changed your mood. It's a different day. It's a different year, you know, and you feel entirely different. So you're always held up to what you've said before, and I don't... Half the time you don't know what you're talking about when you're talking to reporters.
I have that same feeling. I always want to say, well, either I said it or I didn't say it or I said it and didn't mean it.
Yeah.
And, or any of the above.
It's like, you know, if everybody's words were recorded as they were saying it, there's lots of things you say that either turn out to be silly or you didn't mean it or was the spur of the moment or you meant it or you had foresight or didn't. And it varies, but when people bring it back, you've forgotten all about it. You know, I don't know what you're talking about.
Which are you doing now?
How do you mean?
I mean, what you're saying now you actually mean.
I don't know what he's talking about. What's he talking about? What do you mean?
Which am I doing? We'll be
Hello,
back
who's
after
there?
this. Stay where you are. I've been reading Grapefruit, which is a book that Yoko wrote, and it's got
Which
a lot
comes out in paperback in 2 weeks' time.
It may even be out now in certain
Oh, yes, it
areas.
might be out now,
If not, you can. If it isn't, you can.
Paperback, yeah.
You can reserve your copy.
I
But
do.
there are things in here that you suggest people do, which is it's a book you can take part in, such as getting a bag of light and bringing it down and placing it where your light bulb would be, and so on, which I find difficult to do, but
Well, when you
I
do
like
it,
it.
probably you'll find that it's easier than...
easier than I
Yes.
think.
It's
Yeah.
a book of instructions. Like Yoko says, poetry is adjective and prose is what?
Well, this is just
What's
verb.
that story you tell about adjective and
This
noun?
is not adjective or noun, but it's a verb, you know.
Verb. You have to do the
it.
things in the book. It's a book of instructions. And through
yeah.
doing them, you have, it's like, I don't know, you go through a trip and you go through an awareness. You have an experience.
Let's do one fast.
Okay,
yes, okay.
well, go on, what?
That one?
Okay.
Which
yes,
one?
okay. I'll listen to yours.
Okay, go on, what do you do?
Oh, so why don't you...
Do you want to use me in any way?
do it then?
Okay. Tell me what you're going to do.
Oh,
I'm gonna
maybe
get
yes.
this one.
Oh, that's...
What do you need, John?
Well, we listen to each other.
Listen to each other.
One of the
Yeah,
original
Oh.
instructions in a book was called Touch Piece, where everybody in the audience had to touch each other. And that was long before Essalon or any of those people, those things where people are supposed to touch each other. In
You wanna
1960,
listen
she
to
did
them
that.
any way you want.
Yeah, I'll have a listen.
Wait, I
I can still hear them laughing through your head, you see.
yes?
Talk.
Okay. For some reason I feel I should cough or something.
Is anything happening inside?
Can you hear anything?
Well, it sort of echoes like a cave. Do you want to try it? Try it, go on. And if you move that, it comes different.
Oh, it sounds...
Go on. Hello, Dick, how are you? All right, how are you?
That's amazing.
Fine, thanks. How's Rick? He's in the kitchen with Mom. Where's Mom? She's in the house watching paper.
I didn't hear a thing.
Now, Dick, listen to me somehow.
John, you swallowed a clock. So
Anywhere.
anywhere I want to listen to you?
Yes.
Yes.
Are you serious, lady?
I have no
Really?
secrets.
No?
Crazy, you know.
Well, let me close my eyes and just...
Anything happening there?
It's on her shoulder for those with bad focus on their television set. I can hear the audience. It's very strange.
I think it's a nice way of
It's fun.
communication.
Yeah,
And
I'd
I
like to
think
do that.
Total communication is peace. I mean, equal peace, you know.
Listening
We can
to each
never
other.
have peace unless the whole world would have total communication. This is just a process.
There's a piece in
You
that
may be
book
right.
called Cut Piece where most artists, when they give you something, they make a painting or a record. Are we going to go away or something?
No, we were going to take a look at your piece of
Oh,
film.
okay,
Let's
right.
do that.
Then we'll
Okay,
talk
shall I
about
talk
Cut Piece
about
in a
it?
moment.
Shall I talk
This
about
is John's-
the film?
Yeah, tell us about your film.
This film is called Erection, and it's not what you think. See, I was driving through London once, or any city, and you suddenly notice, if you go away, you come back, suddenly there's a big building there. And I suddenly noticed this hotel starting to get built, and I had this idea to show the whole of the film growing, you see. So I got this guy to take still footage in the same position for 1.5 years while they built the... He did it once a week, you know, every Friday from the same place. And the film is like a cartoon where these stills over the 1.5 years, the hotel just grows up in front of you. And you see...
idea.
And in the left-hand corner, you won't see it, but you see a bush going through all the seasons, from summer to winter. The leaves come and go, and the snow comes and it goes. And gradually, at the end of the film, the whole hotel is there. People are in there. The lights go out. At the very end, all the lights go out gradually in all the bedrooms. And then that's the end. It lasts 20 minutes. And it just goes one frame after the other.
Let's take a look at some...
It goes now. And the music is from Yoko's new album on the back of the film.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Out now.
The movie is called Erection. It is. That was a short bit out of the middle of the film. I'd love to see the whole thing. It looks terrific. We have to message from our local stations. We'll be right back. Yoko, do you do exhibits of your work now? Can I see it anywhere, a collection of your stuff?
Yes, of course. Of course, if you want to find out about my work, first, if you buy that book, which is coming out
Grapefruit.
now, you know.
Did I mention this earlier?
In paperback.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in Syracuse, there's the Neverton Museum, and I'm going to have the first museum show of mine there.
Good.
That's in New York, Syracuse, you know.
Syracuse, New York.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's going to one-woman show with guest artist John Lennon. And we're going to do the whole...
Do that again, they missed it.
About...
Sorry.
A retrospective show of all my pieces for 15 years or so, and new pieces as well. And that's going to be from October 9th, which is... I said it like that because that's John's birthday, and I thought it was a nice birthday gift.
Yes, thank
Is that your birthday?
Yes,
It's
it
an
is.
opening.
31 is
What does that
terrible.
make you?
31. But they've given up the
He's
whole
still young,
museum.
isn't he?
It's a beautiful museum. It's the most, meant to be one of the best museum buildings in America. And the whole museum is for Yoko's show. She's going to show 10 years' work up to now with all new work, plus films, plus happenings and whatever. It's going to be fantastic.
You know, I've been
Syracuse, October the 9th and onwards.
I've been listening to Imagine, and,
that's nice.
Oh Yoko is going through my head constantly. In fact,
That's
it's
great.
the song.
Discover.
There's something about the, I don't know what,
It's
it goes
very
through your head
simple,
sort of
like
like
Three Blind Mice. It's
like a
bit
chewing gum commercial
Yeah.
or something. I don't
Yeah.
mean that in, I mean
I know,
in
well,
that way of...
It's a
It's
simple
very
love
zen.
song, you know.
Zen.
Is it Zen?
Yes.
I don't know, but it's a simple love song to me.
Chewing gum
very
is
nice.
Zen,
Yeah.
so, you know.
Can we...
Bubble gum, you mean?
No, not just plain gum,
Oh,
like the
actually.
Wrigley commercial.
Well, I'm
goes through
glad you
your head.
like
Oh
it.
Yoko goes through mine.
I thought of the album, which they're plugging now out now. Imagine, no, we thought Jealous Guy and Give Me Some Truth was going to be the ones, but people seem to like Imagine and Oh Yoko the best, which is, I did not think they'd like Oh Yoko. They love it.
Well, for complicated reasons, you can't sing for us here. One of them being that you think you play the guitar badly, which I find amazing.
No, I said I'd have to rehearse a group first,
Yeah.
and I haven't, because we're doing something else, I can't rehearse the group before we
Sure.
come on. I can't just play off, you know, one off like that without rehearsing. However,
Through the magic of ingenuity,
Yeah,
we will, in any case, see you do Imagine.
Yeah, this
Can
is
you
a
guess
clip.
how?
This is a clip from a film we're making of showing my new songs from the album and some of Yoko's new songs from her album. And this first clip is the beginning of the film. It'll be slightly changed in the end, but this is roughly how the film starts, called Imagine. On TV probably this September.
And here it is. Just to take a message. We'll do that in a second. We have a message from our local stations, and we'll be right back. Well, we don't have much time left. Does anyone have any idea how much time we do have? Let me confirm quickly a couple rumors with you.
Yes.
One of them, has it ever been settled whether Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds was a code for anything?
It never was, and nobody believes me. I even saw some famous star introducing, I've forgotten who it was, introducing a Lennon McCartney show, and it was Mel Torme saying about how Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds was about LSD. This is the truth. My son came home with a drawing and showed me this strange-looking woman flying around. I said, what is it? He said, it's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And I thought, that's beautiful. I immediately wrote a song about it. The song had gone out, the whole album had been published, and somebody noticed that the letters spelt out LSD. And I had no idea about it. And, of course, after that, I was checking all the songs to see what the letters spelled out.
Yeah.
They didn't spell out anything, none of the others, and it wasn't about that at all, you know.
They could do that with Eleanor Rigby.
But nobody believes, you see. Yeah.
Stood for
there was Henry the
erotic-
Horse in a song I wrote called Mr. Kite. The lyrics, which I got most of it off, was an old poster for an old-fashioned circus, you know, from the 1800s. And it was all about Pablo Fanke's fair, and the horse was there. And they said Henry the Horse was horse, which I didn't know anything about then, you know.
Is the warm gun.
And Happiness is a Warm Gun was another one, they said, which was banned on the radio. They said it was about shooting up drugs. And it was the front of a gun magazine which said, Happiness is a Warm Gun. You know, they're advertising guns. I thought it was so crazy that I made a song out of it.
Do you ever think of anything, I don't know if you knew Janis Joplin well or Jimi Hendrix
We
or
didn't
all,
meet,
but
but she sent me a birthday tape on my birthday. Last birthday, Yoko asked all different people to make a tape for me, and she was one of them. And we got it after she died. It arrived in the post that she was singing Happy Birthday to me in the studio.
What do you think could be done about drug overdosing in or out of the profession of music?
I think the basic thing nobody asks is why do people take drugs of any sort, from alcohol to Aspros to hard drugs? And that question has to be resolved first before you think, well, what can we do for the poor drug addict? Why do we and you and anybody have to have these accessories to normal living to live? That means there's something wrong with society that's making us so pressurized that we cannot live in it without guarding ourselves against it. So it's that basic, the
More
problem.
communication.
I think if people are allowed to be a bit more free and express themselves, they wouldn't have to inhibit themselves by taking drugs to not be hurt. People take drugs and drink so as they don't feel what's going on around them. And
Total freedom for everybody is our goal, you know. That way, you know, it will be a utopia.
people are
Yes, if we
frightened
can
of
get it.
freedom. They think freedom, oh, there'll be excesses. Of course there would be excess to an extent, and then it would settle down. The way the porno films don't pull so many people in now. So what? It'll level out. And all forms of freedom will be the same as that. If people are allowed to be completely free, it will level out, and people would be less inhibited and not be frightened of each other, and wouldn't have to take drugs to prevent being hurt by each other.
We're almost
Don't
out of
be
time.
afraid.
Was that your house, by the way, in the film?
That's
that
our
was-
house, yeah. I just wish to mention that my son visits me every weekend at that house, which is a beautiful home in Ascot with 80 acres of ground. Yoko's daughter is not allowed to visit us because her ex-husband won't let her see her own daughter. All Yoko wishes is that now and again Kyoko could be brought to that house to spend some time with her mother and with my son Julian, because it's a beautiful home. We have 8 or 10 children living there that belong to the staff.
That's wonderful.
And we're not allowed to see our daughter. And Yoko's going mad, as any mother would, because her daughter's been withheld from her. That's all we have to say about that. But that's the house waiting for her, if you're watching, Kyoko.
We must take a message from our locals, and we'll be right back. We've come to the end, and there are a lot more things we could talk about. Maybe you can drop back sometime when
We'd
you're
love to.
stateside.
Maybe next time we'll really perform live for you, you know. I'd like to do it.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. We will, thank you, John.
I'd just like to say, we're going on the road next year John and Yoko and a band that I'm putting together, and we'd like to come and do live performance wherever we can.
We'll have the carpet out, and we're
Thank
going
you.
away right now. Thank you, John. Thank you, Ono. It was a pleasure. Yoko ono,